Yeah, hi there, this is tuxocher.com again. Welcome on my video channel. In this little video today, I want to report about the UGreen NAS again, and here especially on the network connection. As it is well known, the UGreen NAS, here my DXP4800 Plus, supports also 10 gigabit in combination with a 2.5 gigabit port. So let's take a look on the results I achieved with the 10 gigabit port in my network environment. As already reported in the first part, the UGreen NAS supports also a 10 gigabit port for networking besides of the 2.5 gigabit port which I use regular here in my networking environment, because all my networking environment is set up to 2.5 gigabit. But as you might already know, I had 10 gigabit here on my do-it-yourself NAS already, and therefore I must ask the question if for a NAS connection with a 10 gigabit port, maybe the hard drive could be the bottleneck. This question arises primarily because normal hard drive generally cannot provide more than, let's say, 220 or 230 megabyte per second read speed, and then we are talking about the fastest hard drive available. In the internet, in other YouTube channel, they are talking about the idea that you have to have 10 gigabit network connection, even or especially for editing 4K video clips. As long as we're not talking about, let's say, B-RAW, ProRes, or even ProRes RAW, but about the normal H.264 or H.265 videos from our system cameras, that isn't necessary in my opinion, because we are talking about a bitrate in the range between 150 and 400 megabit per second. This means that a network connection only has to utilize, let's say, around 50 megabyte per second. And even if you stack a couple of video clips on top of it, let's say in DaVinci Resolve, a 2.5 gigabit connection should be enough for editing 4K video clips. However, if you're in a small team, let's say 3 or 4 people, and all those people are editing photos or video clips and so on, that might be a little bit different, because then the 2.5 gigabit connection might not be sufficient enough. It might quickly become tight. For me, here, however, a 2.5 gigabit connection, however, is most of the time sufficient, because I'm the only user. Nevertheless, I ordered a 10 gigabit networking card from Amazon to build it in to the Windows PC here behind me. Testing this with the iPerf connection between the UGreen NAS and the Windows PC, then you get results between 9.5 and 9.8 gigabit per second, so the card and the driver is okay. With a crystal disk mark test, you can achieve almost the maximum, and that means that you run over 1000 megabytes per second. But checking that in real-world scenarios, like copying a mixer file with a size of 160 gigabyte in total, I got pretty disappointing results with about 220, 230 megabyte per second, even when I connected it with the 10 gigabit network port. As you probably know, the DXP4800 Plus supports NVMe drive, which you can utilize as a cache for the volume you defined with the NAS. So I installed two 1 terabyte NVMe drives in my DXP4800 Plus as a cache, and I defined them in the graphical UI as a read-write cage for my volume, which contains 4 hard drives, 4 terabyte each, which means that is roughly a 12 terabyte RAID 5. When the cage is configured, you reach out something like 430 megabyte per second in write speed and 637 megabytes in read speed. Because I want to utilize this connection also for my MacBook Pro, I ordered this Wavlink 5 gigabyte network connection, because USB-C adapter which provide 10 gigabit USB-C networking for a MacBook Pro are quite expensive, so I got myself this one as a compromise. The adapter initially is only recognized as a 2.5 gigabit network adapter, but when you install the drivers from Wavlink, the network adapter works pretty fine as a 5 gigabit adapter, even with the MacBook Pro. With this 5 gigabit adapter, I reached out 480 megabyte per second both for reading and writing speed. So that is pretty good and more sufficient for me, because I'm the only user in this network environment. In the following table, I display all the results I measured with the DXP4800 Plus NAS, either with the 2.5 gigabit connection and both with the 10 gigabit and 5 gigabit adapter, both with and without cage. And as you can see in this table, the 10 gigabit connection was only around 150 megabyte per second faster. So I decided to return the 10 gigabit adapter because I can live with a constant read and write speed of about 430 to 480 megabyte per second. But even this one is far away from the theoretical 1000 megabyte per second you can reach with a 10 gigabit connection. But I guess if you use a bigger model from the UGreen NAS with, let's say, the 6-bay or the 8-bay model, you could reach a little bit more speed, because then the hard drives add up in speed if you define them as a regular RAID 5 array. So I stick with the USB-C 5 gigabit adapter because I can both use it on the MacBook Pro and on my Windows PC with a USB-C connection. Again, we see that the UGreen placed a pretty good hardware with the DXP4800 Plus on the market to a real fair price. The 10 gigabit option at least makes it future-proof. So if you use that NAS in a little team or so, you can then utilize the 10 gigabit connection even more, as I could do it as a single user on this NAS. Okay, that was my little review on the 10 gigabit networking on the DXP4800 Plus. And if you have any questions to this, you might as well place them in the comments of this video or in the comment section of the corresponding blog post. And if this video was a little bit helpful to you, you might think about placing a like on the video, but I would appreciate it very much if you subscribe my channel. But then don't forget to hit the bell so you get a notification every time I upload a new video. Okay, that was my review on the 10 gigabit networking on the UGreen NAS. And all I have to say is, till the next time, ciao, tux oche.